In this lecture, we will take a look at the count meta argument and its uses in Terraform. One of the easiest ways to create multiple instances of the local file is to make use of the count meta argument. To do this, simply add an argument called count with a value greater than 1. Here, we have used count is equal to 3. When we try to run Terraform plan now, we can see that Terraform tries to create 3 resources instead of 1. In the output of the Terraform apply command, we can see that 3 resources are created. The resources are identified by pet of 0, where 0 is within square brackets, pet 1 and pet 2. The resource is now considered to be a list of resources with elements at index 0, 1 and 2. However, there's one problem with this approach. Since we have only specified the count, Terraform will try to create the same resource 3 times. Since the file name is not unique, Terraform will recreate the same file 3 times rather than creating 3 separate files, which defeats the purpose of this task. A better way to do this and make sure that all 3 resources have unique file names is to make use of a list type variable for file name. And to do this, we have used default values with 3 elements, each corresponding to the name of the file that we want to create. Next, we want Terraform to make use of each element of this list as the value of the file name argument. In this example, Terraform should make 3 iterations as the count has a value of 3. The first iteration should pick up the element at index 0, which is the file called pets.txt. This is followed by the element at index 1, which is dogs.txt. And finally, cats.txt at index 2. To use this within the configuration file, we can make use of count.index in the expression for the file name, like this. Now when we run Terraform apply, we can see that there are 3 files created inside the /root directory. But what if we were to add a few more elements to the list in the future? Say we wanted to add a few more files by the name of /root/cows.txt and ducks.txt. If we were to apply this configuration now, we would see that it will still create only 3 files, because we have set the count to a static value of 3. We want the count to automatically pick up the number of items that are defined within the file name variable. And to do this, we can set the value of count to use a built-in function that would return the length of the list. This built-in function called length will set the value of count to 5. Terraform offers several built-in functions that allows us to manipulate values within expressions. And one simple function that we can use here is the length function. The length function is used to calculate the size of a list, and we can use this function in the count meta argument to dynamically determine the size of the file name variable. We are now ready to run Terraform apply. But before we do that, let's change the default value for the file name variable back to 3 elements. And that's it. If we run Terraform plan and apply now, we should see that 3 resources with distinct file names have been created. There is, however, another significant drawback when we use the count meta argument to loop through variables this way. To illustrate this, let us use the same example, but this time let us remove the element /root/pets.txt from the list. If we run Terraform plan now, we can see that instead of deleting just one resource with the file name /root/pets.txt, Terraform is replacing 2 resources and deleting 1 resource. Why does it do that? We only want to remove the first element in this list, but it looks like all elements are going to be replaced by this operation. To see why this is happening, let us first understand how count works. As we saw before, when we use count, the resources become a list of resources. To see this using Terraform, let us add an output variable to the main.tf file to print all details of this resource. Using the Terraform output command, we can see that the resource is now in the format of a list. Originally, the resource called pet is a list with 3 resources, each identified by its index. The first resource in the list creates the file by the name pets.txt, and it is identified by pet with the index 0. 0 enclosed within square brackets since it's a list. The second resource element is pet of 1, which creates a file called docs.txt. And the third resource is pet of 2, which creates a file called cats.txt. The first element in a list is always 0, and as a result, when we deleted the element called /root/pets.txt, which was at index 0 to begin with, the element with the value /root/docs.txt shifts up and takes its place at index 0. Likewise, /root/cats.txt becomes the element at index 1, and the list now only has 2 elements in it. When we run Terraform plan now, Terraform can see that the resources at index pet0 and pet1 have to be destroyed and replaced. This is owing to the change in their file names. And there is no resource pet2, so it will delete that resource entirely. Although after the apply operation, we will have the resources created as per our intended end state, this is not an ideal approach. We may not want the resources to be destroyed and recreated just because we removed an unrelated element from the list. And we will see how to fix that in the next lecture. Now let's head over to the hands-on labs and practice working with the count meta argument in Terraform.